we're here.
Welcome to Fan Flak. My voice is echoing.
Not here. You sound fine to me.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see what the problem is real quickly.
Yeah, because I have headphones on, so you shouldn't be getting anything back from me.
Okay, it's probably my phone then. Are we hearing anything?
Try it again. Are you hearing it? Maybe it's coming back to the headphone. Try that.
Well, my head is empty, so it's possible it's an echo from. Hello?
Are you still getting the echo?
Well, I'm hearing something, but it might not be an echo. It might
I don't know. Here, let me close. The door is open. Maybe one of the kids is playing something that's making noise.
Okay. See, we don't hide anything from our viewers.
Yeah, you get the whole shebang.
The whole ugly thing.
You see, I have two grandkids in the house, and they like to listen to videos. One's 10 and one's 8. My 8-year-old granddaughter acts like she's 13.
Yeah.
And they like to listen to all sorts of stuff. So, and they're in the next room over from me, so there may be something that I can't hear because I have the headphones on that my microphone is picking up.
Right.
Are you still here? You still hearing anything?
No.
Good.
No. Well, sort of, but it doesn't matter. It's not bad.
Okay.
We're talking about dead people today. We've lost a lot of people in the entertainment industry.
We see dead people.
We see dead people. By the way, I am one of the people who knew what the twist ending was in the first 5 minutes of that movie.
Not me.
Yeah. Now,
anyway.
It was freaking obvious. Anyway.
What came up is Melody and I were talking about the fact that Ryan O'Neal had passed away.
Yeah.
And we were thinking maybe we'd talk about Ryan O'Neal. Well, Ryan O'Neal's personal life wasn't so swell. Let's not go into detail. But he wasn't a real nice. Yeah, I know. He wasn't a real nice guy. So, and I don't think he was that spectacular an actor. You know, I know whenever anybody dies, they go on and on about what a wonderful actor they were. And I didn't particularly find him to be that wonderful an actor.
Over on Cruise Stories over on Facebook is a wellspring of information about the entertainment industry because all the people on it are crew. They are grips, they are cameramen, they camera operators, they are in every spectrum of the production end of entertainment. And whenever anybody dies, they pretty much eviscerate them. So you heard, he really was a good actor. He was a very good actor. And he was a jerk. So, but anyway, he's gone. He lived to be 82. He has 4 children. So, and Tatum is certainly still with us and doing well. So,
I discovered what the problem was why you were getting echo.
Oh, good. Okay.
You should be getting nothing now.
Oh, okay. Good.
Because my system had, without me doing it, had switched from my headset to my headset and the speaker.
Oh, of course.
So it was also playing your audio coming out of the speaker. So now it isn't doing that. So you should be hearing nothing coming back to you.
Excellent.
Okay. Sorry if it sounded like that to all of you folks.
We should
but
also,
it's all fixed.
Since we're talking about death, we should also mention it was recently Donny Osmond's birthday. So he has a birthday this week. Don't ask me how I know that, but I do. I was a child of the 60s and 70s. So,
I used to get some inside information about the Osmond brothers. Because I don't know if Melanie recalls, but
Alan Savage.
one of my best friends in school was a fellow named Alan Savage, who grew up in Ogden, Utah, next door to the Osmond brothers. And he went to school with the Osmond brothers. They used to go swimming at the Osmond brothers' house and all sorts of stuff. And he knew all sorts of dirt about the Osmond brothers that I will not share.
We know.
I mean, it wasn't terrible, but just, the stuff that happens in all families,
Yeah.
So.
That's one odd thing about my whole family. We all seem to have contacts in the entertainment industry, and none of us have anything to do. Well, I'm a writer, so that has a little to do with that. Mark works on, he's a senior engineer for a motion picture camera company, so that has something to do with it, but we don't have any direct contacts anymore. But somehow our grandfather met and spent the afternoon with William Holden. And Mark had a friend who grew up with the Osmonds, and one of my best friends was Nelson Riddle's daughter. So
yep.
We had.
And I went to school with one of his other Tina.
Yeah.
She went to Big Bear High.
Yeah.
So I didn't know her at Big Bear High, but she went there.
She went there, yeah.
We didn't have any classes together, and I never crossed paths with her except at the Riddle's house one time when I went over there for some reason.
Yeah. Well, I knew Tina and Maureen and Skip and
Cecily.
Cecily, of course. She was my best friend. So, and Doreen, who was their mother, who had been Nelson's first wife. And
well, I only met Cecily and Tina, I think.
Yeah. Well, I met, I went to the one party and I met Frank Sinatra Jr., but he did what he usually did with all people not of his level. He looked over our heads and smiled. So.
You were children,
Exactly. No sane person is going to be that interested. Michael Jackson might if I'd been a boy, but anyway, I'm sorry.
I mean, if he was paying a lot of attention to you as children, I'd be worried.
Yeah, I would too. But anyway,
what we decided to talk about was, since our last podcast, there have been a number of celebrities who have died. Some of them notable celebrities, and some of them much worth more talking about than Ryan O'Neal.
Yeah.
So, starting with the 3rd of December, which was the day after our last podcast.
Right.
Andrea Faye Friedman passed away. Now, you may not know her name, but if you've watched a lot of television, especially Family Guy, Baywatch, Law and Order, a lot of those shows, she was on them. She had Down syndrome. She was a blonde-haired lady. Let's see, I will show you a photograph of her right here. This is her from an episode of Law and Order that she was in.
The beautiful lady.
Now she voiced a character named Ellen on an episode of Family Guy. And she was on Life Goes On, Carol of the Bells, Baywatch, Chicago Hope, Law and Order, ER, The Division, and Saving Grace.
Right.
And they did a 2009 documentary about her called A Possible Dream, the Andrea Friedman story. And what's tragic about this, being dead at 53 years old is tragic enough. But the fact that she, on top of having Down syndrome, she died of Alzheimer's. So, I mean, there's worse ways to go, but that's a pretty bad way to go.
Tragically, people with Down syndrome are prone to Alzheimer's, and which is why we need to encourage people who are disabled and take care of them. So,
but I saw a little bit of the documentary, and she talked about that her mother had taught her to have a sense of humor. And she said that apparently Sarah Palin didn't have a sense of humor, because in the episode of Family Guy, she pretended to be the daughter of Sarah Palin. Well, Sarah Palin's son has Alzheimer's, or has Down syndrome, not Alzheimer's, I'm sorry, has Down syndrome. And Sarah Palin was offended by the episode of Family Guy. And they asked Andrea about it, and she said, well, I guess she doesn't have a sense of humor. And she says, my mother taught me to have a sense of humor about my situation. So that was... And she, I mean, considering the hand she was dealt, she made a pretty good life for herself for those 53 years, you have to say.
She certainly did. And she was a brave person in that she went into an industry that has very little patience for anyone who's different. So good on her. And 53 is not a bad time for people who have Down syndrome. So.
Oh yeah. Now there was another actor or actually director, who passed away the next day on December the 4th. Melanie and I have no idea who he is, I'm sorry to say. He directed a movie called The 13th Apostle. And his name was Surin Babayan. So if you know him, he passed away on the 3rd. On the 4th, pardon me. Now, on the 5th, we lost a giant of the entertainment industry, Norman Lear, at the age of 101 years old.
Bless his heart.
He's a Hall of Fame television writer of All in the Family, Maude, and the Jeffersons.
And
What's interesting to think about is he outlived the cast of all 3 shows. He did.
That's really saying something.
There is nobody alive out of those 3 shows.
Rob Reiner and Sally Struthers are still with us.
Well, yeah, but I don't count them as the main cast.
Oh, but no.
Carol O'Connor, I'm just counting the main stars, which is Carol O'Connor and I forget the lady's name. Who was the lady?
Gene Stapleton.
Yes. And in Maud, now, Maud's daughter is still alive.
Yeah.
B. Arthur's is Adrienne Barbeau played her daughter. The Jeffersons, both the two main characters, and the neighbor with the British accent, he's also gone, and so is the maid. So really, all four characters of that are gone.
Yeah.
So Norman, you outlived all of them. Because 101 years old, you outlive a lot of people.
Hey, he and he certainly was a nice man too. I heard a wonderful story about him over on the Cruise Stories group. He, this young man had been delivering pizzas, and as many young entertainment industry hopefuls do. And he got an order for a delivery to a Beverly Hills address. So he went, whoa, who is it? So he drives up to this mansion, and he goes up, knocks on the door, and Norman Lear answers. And the guy goes, what other chance am I going to have? So he handed him the pizza, and he said, sir, I hate to do this, but I'm a young writer. And the guy goes, Norman Lear goes, here's my card. Send some of your clips to my office. And he says, oh, and by the way, he hands him a $50.
Hey.
So he not only tipped him $50, but this gentleman is now a staffer on a television show and got his first job because Norman Lear hired him. So, that's the kind of person you want to hear about in the industry. And there he
And since I have his picture, I'll put it up there so everybody can see it. Now you notice, I don't put the pictures of the people when they're hanging on to the edge of the grave with their fingertips.
Like the little
I put a picture. I put a picture when they still look good. That's the picture I want on my coffin when I die. I don't want a picture of Norman Lear, but I want a picture of me when I look good.
That would be confusing.
Yes, it would. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a picture of Søren Babayan, so I apologize for that.
I believe he was an American fellow.
It said he was. I don't know. I couldn't find any good photograph of him.
Yeah.
Next. Lady that died the day before the anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
She died on December the 6th. Right. Is Ellen Holly. Now, Ellen Holly was 92 years of age. And she was, a groundbreaking actress because she was the first actress of African American descent to be cast as a regular on a soap opera on American television. She was in One Life to Live. Now, she also did a movie called School Days and one called Cops and Robbers. But the fact that she was... hang on. There. She was on that show. Now, she portrayed a person who was pretending to be white, but was African American. And you can see she does have features that make her fall into that category.
And probably some hair relaxation and everything. It's stuff that actresses had to do back then. And,
all right. Now, on December 7th, the anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor,
Yes.
was the death of Stan Rogo, who was 75 years of age. He was a television producer, a 3-time Emmy nominee for Lizzie McGuire on the Disney Channel, Flight 29 Down, and most famously, Fame.
Yeah.
And here is Stan Rogo. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, if it's Rogao or Rogo,
No, there you are.
But that is his picture. Also, one of the better pictures I found of him. Now, I tried not to get a picture when he was like 16 years old. I want to get one that's representative of what he looked like when he was doing. Yeah, when he was doing well. And last but not least, of course, Ryan O'Neal, most famous for Love Story.
Yes.
And his daughter Tatum O'Neal.
Right.
And is Patrick O'Neal an actor or?
Yeah.
Okay, because Patrick is the one who announced the death of his father.
Yeah, and he also had 2 more sons, Redmond O'Neal and the 4th, whose name escapes me. I do have a couple of kind of funny stories about him.
There you go.
They're not terribly complimentary, but they came from Tatum. So when she moved away from home, her father had her Oscar sitting on the television. And she, of course, received the Oscar. Back in the day, they would award them children's special Oscars. And she really was a quite fine actress.
Wasn't she 8 years old when she won the Oscar for Paper Moon?
10 years
10?
old. And so when she was getting ready to go move off, and so she went over and grabbed her Oscar, and her dad said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm taking my Oscar. It's mine." And apparently, Papa had a problem with that because he felt it was a family Oscar. And she said, "Look at the name." And he said, "Well, I know it has your name on it." She said, "Okay, then it's mine." So she took it with her. And she told a couple of others. And of course, there's the famous moment during the Oscar telecast. They opened the envelope before they were supposed to, and got a look on their faces like, "Oh no." But anyway, he somehow made it to 82, which is more than can be said for some of his era. And I also want to mention that Denny Lane passed away. Denny was a member of Wings and also later on Moody Blues. And he was 75, 76, something like that. So he wasn't very old. But
it seems funny that Paul McCartney would have somebody in his band named Denny Lane.
Yeah, I know. That was a constant joke. They would sing Denny Lane. So anyway, so he obviously was a very gifted musician. And last week we lost Frances Sternhagen, who was a great character actress. And she was in all, that's the sad thing of it. When actresses get older, they end up playing people's mothers on sitcoms.
Oh, yeah, you see that all the time.
Yeah, Carol Burnett and everybody. They all become and the same thing can be said for character actors who get older.
Well, a lot of times they're grasping for anything to play. Because look at Valerie Bertinelli, for instance.
Yes.
She was a big star when she was a teenager, and she hasn't done anything in a long time.
Turn on the Food Channel, hon. Turn on the Food Channel.
That isn't real television.
Oh, yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. She's a big star over on Food.
Well, she was married to who? Eddie Van Halen? Wasn't she married to him for a while?
Yeah, she was. But she has her own Valerie Bertinelli's Home Cooking. She's also the co-star on Kids Baking Championship, along with Duff, the little bald guy.
How many Emmys has that show won?
Actually 2.
Oh, come on.
I'm serious, man.
They shouldn't give real Emmys to shows like that.
Go over and watch it. They get numbers. They really do.
Do you know how popular shows like that are with the Screen Actors Guild?
Oh, very low. Very low.
Because they can... Oh, you know who we almost lost?
Oh.
Mark Shepard. Do you know who Mark Shepard is?
I know the name.
Morgan Shepard's son.
Oh, that's right. Oh, okay. Yes.
And he played the Baltar's defense attorney on Battlestar Galactica, and he ended up being the president. Well, he had 6 heart attacks this last week. We almost lost him. He had a quintuple bypass. And
God.
he wasn't that old, really. He's in his 60s, but
That's
know.
Not old. Not
No,
nowadays.
no, that's not old at all. Not
It's
when I'm
never
68.
old when it's near your age.
That's right.
But seriously,
but yeah, he's a great actor. I think he's the best father-son actors that Morgan Shepard was an excellent actor.
He was a very good character actor, yeah. But who else? There was someone. Oh, Drew Carey lost. Not Drew Carey. The other Dana Carvey. Dana Carvey lost his son. And
his son died?
Yeah.
He must have not been very old.
He wasn't. And let me look up very quickly.
Accidental or pharmaceutical or then it's probably pharmaceutical or suicide.
So
that's terrible. I hate to hear that happening to anybody. That's the worst thing a parent can ever think about having happen to them.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Well,
I don't care who you are. I don't wish that on you.
Dex Carvey. He was 32, and it was an accident, drug overdose.
Oh, well, it was an accident. It's terrible, but it's not as terrible as the alternatives.
Yeah, this is true. But, poor Dana Carvey had heart surgery a few years ago. And they went in and they were supposed to change one part of his heart. I can't think of the term. And instead they changed another. They went in and they did the wrong surgery on the man. And he had to go in and have it all over again. So, and
Well,
now,
that's why if you have surgery, when you go in, say you're going to have your left arm operated on, they take a marking pen and they write on your left arm, operate on this arm, and don't operate on this arm.
they do. Having had my
Who are the gorillas that they have doing these surgeries?
Oh, my bariatric surgeon could tell you things.
But I mean, when I went in, I forget what they were doing to me, but they actually wrote on my body.
I know they did on me. They wrote on my right, like when I had the right hip replaced, they wrote on it, replace this leg. And when the left one broke, they wrote on that. But
I'll tell you a little something.
what?
There was a movie made once, and it was called Where Does It Hurt? And it starred, oh God, I knew his name, Peter Sellers.
Oh, yeah,
And he was the head of the hospital.
right.
And it was maybe 10 years after he did Dr. Strangelove. So he wasn't old. He was still funny.
Yeah.
And and this hospital was going broke. And he had been put in charge of the hospital, and he was trying to. So this young guy goes in for an employment physical, and they end up trying to give him a heart transplant.
Yes, yeah, I remember that.
So if you have a chance, I don't know, it's hard to find things now because with all the streaming stuff, and you don't know who's got rights to what. But if you can find it, watch Where Does It Hurt? Because it was funny.
Yeah, there's another film with come on, George. Oh, come on now. You can't tell it's after my.
What was he in?
Patton. George
George C. Scott.
Thank you. He's only in one of my favorite movies. They Might Be Giants.
They Might Be Giants. I was going to say, I like that one too. I think he was one of the best Sherlock Holmes.
Absolutely, he was, and he wasn't even playing Sherlock Holmes. But
I mean,
he thought
my three favorite Sherlock Holmes are Basil Rathbone, of course, and George C. Scott, and the new guy,
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah. Now, just to tell you, I hated Benedict Cumberbatch playing Khan Noonien Singh. He was terrible.
Yeah.
In that role.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
You take a Latin actor like Ricardo Montalban, and you replace him with this wishy-washy, mealy-mouthed British accent white guy. You mean to tell me, why didn't they put Antonio Banderas? He would have been a good choice. He was old enough to play the role like Ricardo Montalban did in The Wrath of Khan, and he's a good actor. He would have been the perfect choice to play Khan.
Yes.
So why they chose Benedict Cumberbatch, I'll never know.
He was the new flavor of the
He was, he was real popular at the time. The Sherlock series was popular. I don't know why they only do 4 episodes a year. And then I don't know if it stopped or if it's still going or what they're doing.
Still going on. They have already done the 5th season, but they're having some kind of rigmarole with the American branch of the family, and so who knows? It'll come out eventually. But
now. JMS, John Michael Straczynski,
right,
is trying to get a reboot of Babylon 5 made.
Right.
But unfortunately, the implosion at CW, which is owned by, Next Group or some name like it's owned by somebody else now. It's not associated with Warner Brothers. It's not associated with Warner Brothers anymore. But Warner Brothers still has the rights to Babylon 5, which is complicating things.
That's what does it. Yeah, it's like the whole issue with Dark Shadows. They're owned by Curtis Group. By the way, Johnny Depp does not own Dark Shadows. The Curtis family, Dan Curtis's daughters, I think there's 2 of them. But anyway, it's the same thing with them. You've got one group here that owns part of it, and so it becomes a chess game just to get into pre-production.
Now, how did you watch the whole series, Babylon 5, or?
Yeah.
Okay. It was a groundbreaking television show in that it was not episodal in terms of, where you could just move the episodes around. You had to show it in order. If you didn't show it in order, it made very little sense.
Yeah.
There were maybe a half a dozen episodes that you could move around and put wherever you want, but most of those episodes really weren't worth watching. Most of the good ones were the ones that had to be played in order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Star Trek, until you got to Deep Space Nine, did not do that. You could move the episodes, and there'd be a little confusion if, on Wednesday, Catherine Pulaski was the doctor, and Thursday, Beverly Crusher was the doctor. That would have some confusing elements to it, but for the most part, you could jumble the episodes up in whatever order you wanted and play them.
Yeah.
Especially if you stuck to the season. If you took season 2's episodes and jumbled them whatever way you wanted to, you'd be fine. Right. It wouldn't make any difference. There was no progression of the story like there was with Babylon 5. Babylon 5, in the first, I'm not talking about the pilot episode. The pilot episode was called The Gathering, and it was actually filmed a year before the first episode of the series aired. And there were 4 regular cast members that did not appear in the pilot episode. They did not appear in The Gathering. But in the first episode, there's a scene where that ties into an episode in season 2 at the end of the season.
Right.
So to show that they had given enough thought to the show to tie something 2 years from now in to the episode, I mean, nobody else was doing anything like that.
Well, the only one I can think of is the drama Wise Guy that had episodic arcs. That
I don't recall that, but could have been. I didn't watch that.
And of course, soap opera existed.
Yeah, well, soap operas are different. They're a different animal.
But
Those don't make any sense if you play them out of order.
Yeah, well, it's hurt Wise Guy in that it can't really be played in major markets because of that very factor that they can't.
How long did Wise Guy run?
5 years.
Oh, it ran that long?
Yeah.
I don't even remember who was in it. Who started it?
Ken Wall and Jonathan Banks. And they gave what's the matter with my memory today?
Oh, it's the same thing that's wrong with mine. We have a 6 at the beginning of our age.
Yes.
That's what's wrong.
It is.
That's why I make notes before I do the show, because I wouldn't remember any of these people's names.
Yeah, it's the guy that has gotten into trouble over raping young boys.
Oh God, that's is that the one that Corey Feldman's
Kevin
Spacey?
Spacey, yes, Kevin Spacey. Thank you. And he
allegedly. I don't think it's been proven, so say allegedly.
Allegedly.
There you go.
So, anyway, he won an Emmy for it. He won an Emmy, I believe. He might have been nominated. He was certainly not.
For raping small boys?
No. They don't give you awards for that unless you're Michael.
I would hope not.
Oh, Lord. Anyway.
They never proved that either, but he can't sue us.
No, they didn't. They're absolutely unproved. But
I have to say that the parents of the children that allowed that to go on really need to be taken a look at. Because I'm sorry, but if those were my children, they wouldn't be sleeping in the bed with some rock star.
If your uncle said, "Hey, I'm going to have a party and all the kids are going to," no way. You would have the man arrested and taken away.
Or at least I would be in the room with them.
Well, see, that's the key to, and I was discussing child stars who don't become crazy and end up killing themselves. And the one thing you see is that they had a parent who went with them and stayed with them and didn't let them be taken off by anyone. You know? Pamela
Ferdinand talks about that a lot on Facebook.
Yep.
That her mother went with her to everything she did.
Exactly. That's what you have to do. And Mitch Vogel, the same thing. His mother and his grandmother. Because one or the other of them went with him every day.
Well, they talked to Butch Patrick about that and about, he had some problems as a teenager, but not real bad. And he credits Fred Gwynn with
It's almost
because he said Fred Gwynn was like a dad to him during the filming of the show. He was apparently a fairly nice fellow.
so much of it is what the stars of the show will. That's why I have to say, as much hell that Tommy Lee Jones gets in the press for being nasty to journalists. He went in when a group of boys in one of his movies was being allowed to stand out in 102-degree heat without any beverages or anything. He walked up and he fired the AD and said, "You're out of here." And he came in and he directed that day. And it was supposed to be all done by the second evening. So, that's when you know you've got someone on staff who's going to look out for the kids. And I don't care what else they do, as long as they take care of the actors.
Well, Pamela Vernon, she did some work with Walt Disney right before he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
They filmed an RCA TV commercial for the selling RCA color televisions. And she filmed a scene with Walt Disney, and he was so sick he couldn't stand. He had to sit in a chair and she said he was just as nice as could be to the kids.
Yeah.
Said he wasn't so nice to some of the adults, but said he was real nice to the kids.
Right. Well, there are in every industry anything that has to do with children, that's around children, will have monsters invading the nest. But as long as aware people keep an eye out, and who was it? The lady who played the mother on the Brady Bunch. She was an excellent,
Florence Henderson?
Yes. She was an excellent one for putting a bug in people's ear about watch out for this guy and do some...
Well, pardon me, but wasn't Florence Henderson the one that had the affair with Greg Brady? Yeah. So I don't know if no, he was an adult. He was 18.
He was an adult, so... but then too little.
Yeah, but he was a little too young to be with Florence Henderson.
No, that was entirely inappropriate, but at least she did that, But it's a very tough industry, and anybody who's thinking about getting their child into it needs to be very aware that there is great danger out there. And
it's so much of it is a scam. Melody will recall that our mother got her into this pageant thing that they had. Now, you think that's all something of modern times, and it existed back when Melody was a kid. And they scammed you into getting headshots and paying all this money for a photographer, and then they had these pageants where you had to have little dresses, and it was all supposedly to make you a movie star. And Melody had some very cute little pictures taken of her and stuff, and nothing happened to Melody. Our mother was on top of that part of it.
My acting was all very much, bottom tier, but
folks are dumb where I come from. They didn't learn.
I didn't sing
that was the only role that I saw Melody play in.
Yeah, that's true.
I thought you were singing that. Didn't you sing that?
That was Robin Boring sang that song. I sang, what was it? I don't know. Something. But it wasn't that one. I sang a little more cryptic I played an old lady in it. And in fact,
I thought you were one of the dwarfs.
I was one of the dwarves, but the song you were singing was not from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It was from Dirty Work at the Crossroads.
I thought one of the dwarfs sang that song.
No.
No?
That was
Okay.
Doing What Comes Naturally.
I remember this. I remember you practicing the song.
Yeah. Well, I was the understudy for that role. So
And we went to the theater. And we went to the theater and saw you in it. That was good.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Melody should have been a star. She should have been a contender.
No.
She should have been a contender.
Trust me, I didn't want to do that. And I certainly could have gone on and done that. I live in the right town, but not Lancaster, but LA area. But
we didn't live in Lancaster back when we were kids. We mostly lived in Lakewood.
Yeah. And in an area that is contingent to the LA area, Hollywood and all of that. We spend a lot of weekends up there.
We used to bring relatives down to Hollywood and drive them around, and we got to see people. Melody and I saw Dick Shawn.
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep.
He was driving a convertible on Sunset Boulevard, and he had a ladder in the passenger seat sticking up out of the car, and we pulled up next to him, and we.
It was hilarious.
I think my mother recognized him and waved at him, and he waved back. He was very friendly.
Huh?
We saw Farrah Fawcett jogging.
Yeah.
And we went to the farmer's market, and we saw a very unusual trio of people having lunch. We saw Sam Jaffe, who played Dr. Zorba on Ben Casey.
Yeah.
And we saw Anne Margaret, a very young, beautiful, red-haired Anne Margaret with a scarf over her head.
Yeah.
And Eddie from Zachary All, which was a clothing store that had very popular commercials that were on at the time.
Yeah.
And the three of them were sitting there at farmer's market together eating lunch.
That's the thing when you live in this area. You see the oddest people standing on street corners with they're smoking or taking a drink out of something, and they look they got shit in their face, and But a friend of mine walked past, I just heard about this the other day, Kiefer Sutherland and the actress who played Chloe on 24. And they were standing there, I guess, waiting for something and eating hot dogs. And Kiefer had mustard on his nose. And it's like, how else do you see things like that, But
some of the, we talked before about some of the actors being jerks. My wife and I were up in Las Vegas, and we were downtown Las Vegas, not like one of the real fancy, nice hotels. We were at the Lucky Lady, which is downtown. Next door, used to be, it's gone now, but it used to be next door to the Golden Gate.
Right.
And so we come outside, and there, leaning up against the wall, is Joe Don Baker. Now, he was in a movie and a TV series called Walking Tall, where he played the sheriff of a small town that was being, I forget, invaded by criminals or something, and he stood up to the criminals. And he had a TV series for a while called I Shine. I don't know if you recall that.
Yeah, I remember.
So Beverly was a fan of his because when her cousin used to work for the movie studios as a tram driver at Universal, and when he wasn't driving the tram, he would drive prop trucks out to location shoots. And he liked doing that because then he could just sit there in the truck and relax while they were filming the shoot, and he got paid the whole time. So he was very fond of that. So my wife went out to one of the shoots, and she got to sit there, and she was real cold, and Joe Don Baker walked up to her and put his jacket on her because he was filming a thing. So she liked him after that. So this is, like 20 years later, we see him in Las Vegas, and he was a total and complete asshole. Huh. So I walked up. Beverly asked me to walk up to get his autograph. So I walked up, and I asked him for his autograph, and he says, I says, I'm sorry, never mind. Sorry to bother you. What do you want, an autograph? And I said, my wife wants one. She's a fan. So he got out a pen. He signed an autograph. He asked what her name was. So he was nice about it after the fact. But, I mean, come on. I remember seeing something, I think it was Johnny Depp that said it, and they asked about if he ever got tired of signing autographs, and he says, I will never refuse an autograph. He says, when they stop asking for my autograph is when I start worrying.
Well, in the words of Paul Winchell, who is not known for being a lovely fellow, he told his daughter, who complained when
I remember that story.
He said, you see that little girl who wants an autograph? That's what buys you your nice dresses and your toys and pays for your meal. She is the person who gives us all of this. And that's something I think people should keep in mind, especially in that business. It's everybody has a bad day, but there's no reason to be rude, and especially to fans. One thing when you're rude to the press. I mean, journalists are used to it, but to fans, no, that's not a good thing. It looks like we're getting up to the top of the hour.
Yep, it is. We are at 59 minutes and 13 seconds. Okay. So we're going to have to sign off, and we will definitely be back next week.
We will.
God willing. Let's just say God willing and the creek don't rise.
Exactly. You guys have a great week. Remember your Christmas presents, and don't spend too much. Remember, everybody will look at whatever you give them with a Christmas heart. So have a great week. We will talk to you next week.
Ta-ta for now.